Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again on this wonderful sunny evening to the Open Door Live webinar show. It's sunshine in my heart. That's what it is. Sunshine in my heart for you lot out there listening in, this wonderful family of CEOs. Obviously, some of you might be new, so you're probably thinking, what on earth is going on here? Well, look, this is a little bit different. It is always a bit different. So welcome to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name's Richie Clapson, and I'm here with the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Ian Child.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Sunshine in my heart as well.
Oh, that's so good, isn't it? That's so good. You see, you hadn't thought of that, but now it is. So it's great to have you here. And just in case this is your first time, and a few of you might be, give us a wave if it's your first time, please. Give us a wave if it's your first time. Yeah, there is a few people first time. Yeah, crazy people. You could have been doing something completely different tonight, but you'll be back, I tell you, every week now. From now on, you'll be hooked on it. Thank you very, very much. So if it is your first time, what have you let yourself in for? Well, our aim is to give you 45 minutes of non-stop positivity, and it's all around the theme of business and property development. Isn't that right, Mr. Child?
Certainly is. Richie and I run a company called propertyCEO. Basically, our job is train people how to become successful small-scale property developers. Lots of amazing opportunities out there right now, particularly for people getting into development for the first time. So we want to help people find out more about those opportunities and to see if development might be a good fit.
That's right. And of course, global pandemic, recession, downturn, people going bust, all sorts of things, but they create opportunities. Keep it within these four walls. There's opportunities out there. We're obviously not belittling all those businesses that are going down, and we don't suggest you capitalize on someone else's pain. But having said that, there are great opportunities for developers. You can help someone else out, buy their property off them that they want to offload, and turn it into something fantastic. But you've got to go and seek out those opportunities. So anyone that wants to get into property development and seek out those opportunities, they are there for you. As always, we're going to be serving up a bit of news, which we always do, a little bit of advice. We're going to talk about a bit of a subject tonight. But above all, we're going to have a bit of fun doing it. We're happy to take questions as they come in. Of course, it is a question and answer show. You can put anything you want in the chat box. We might even read it out. But it is a question and answer show. So please pop questions in and we will pick them up as we go through. So who have we got on? Let's have a look. Let's just scroll my screen down. So David's on. Doral's on. Hello, Doral. Mark's on. Teresa. Good evening, Teresa. Harvey. He's on. Hello, Harvey. Welcome to the family as well, Harvey. Keith's on. Sue's on. Jed's on. Vicky's on. Con's on. Dan's on. Hello, Dan. Rob's on. Roma's on. Hello, Roma. Good to see you this evening. Well, I can't see you, but I can imagine that you're out there watching and enjoying. Sumi's on. Patricia's on. Paul's on. Steve's on. Mike's on. Mike's on. 3 mics are on. Sarah's on. Actually, I spoke to Sarah just a few minutes ago. Hello, Sarah. Well, probably about an hour ago. Welcome to the Open Door Webinar Show. Chris is on. Michelle's on. Harjinder's on. Adam's on. Gabriella's on. I could go on. Yoko's on. Hello, Yoko. She's just joined. So I could go on all night, but I'm not going to go on all night. And good evening, gents, says Dan. Dan says good evening, gents. He's the only one that's actually typed anything in the box to say good evening. The rest of you, and I've read out your names, you can't even be bothered to say good evening in the chat box.
We know what those mics are like. 3 mics. I think that's a record, isn't it? Have we had 3 mics before?
Well, one of the mics that says good evening, gents. Paul has said, when is next guest making an appearance? Variety is so good. Oh, what? So you don't want us then, Paul? Is that what you're saying? You want us to clear off?
That's not very subtle, is it?
No, that's not very subtle, Paul. Good evening, chaps. Sorry, says Sumi. Good evening, Richie and Ian. Yoko. Hang on. Hi, all, says Keith. Ahoy, chaps, says Mark. Anyway, there we go. So first of all, let's do a bit of news items because you want to know what's going on. So we picked out a bit of a selection this evening. Let me kick off with a couple of things. More retail-based information, which I think is always and you might say, hang on, you talk about retail all the time. We only can talk about what's in the news. And what I think is interesting is just picking out stuff which backs up a lot of the things we're saying. So you actually know that we're talking sense. So how many months ago, for those that know us, a year ago, I was talking about the changes in the high street, what was happening, in fact, even before then. But when we were doing the support sessions and Open Door, we're talking about it. Yet more interesting stuff on the high street. Gap in Property Week. Gap was saying the Gap aren't closing down, so I'm not going to get caught here for casting aspersions about Gap. But apparently, allegedly, according to Property Week, I'm only reading this out, 95 stores Gap has, they're talking about going entirely online. entirely online. And it is alleged that they're in negotiations with their landlords about giving up all their leases. That'd be an interesting discussion with the landlords, I can imagine. But they did make operating losses of 40 million, it says. I don't know when that is. I'm assuming that's up to the 1st of February 2020. I don't know. It's probably last year's numbers. How 2020 was as a whole and 2021 numbers, that was difficult to say. I don't know. But the key headline there is 95 stores at Gap. They just don't want them. They want to go totally online. And then also on Monday this week, John Lewis. John Lewis.
I think they pronounce it differently, don't they?
Yeah. Well, some say John Lewis. I say John Lewis, which is a slightly different version. So John Lewis have actually said, according to them, up to 8 of their 42 remaining stores are due to go. I mean, they recently, talked about closing 8. I think it was last year, including Birmingham Flagship store. But there's another 8 apparently that they are talking about closing. A whole load more retail units, which now don't take that as a negative. This is a positive. There's a whole load more retail units which provide stock to the high street, and it just encourages this changing of the high street. You know, we've talked on here about the permitted development rights, and we've had a couple of news items. I think last week we talked about there being objections to the government's proposals for this rather wholeheartedly approach to convert the high street, with this Class E permitted development right into residential. Of course, have this mix. Now, we've done quite a lot of articles in press recently where we've been asked to comment on that, and we've said, yeah, great, as long as it's controlled. But there's also been people objecting, and I think the thing you can say here is, if all these shops are going, those people that object, the government's going to say, well, what's your plan then? Now, the government's got a plan. They can foresee this, and I think what they are proposing, with a little bit of control, is the perfect solution. And this just tells me much the same. So interesting. Ian, what's your news items of choice this week?
I've got a couple I've picked out. One very topical. Next week, obviously, you've got the budget to look forward to, if one can look forward to a budget. And this one I've just picked out. There's a few articles on it. One here in Property Week. So what are people sort of anticipating? No likely increase in income tax, national insurance, or VAT. I think there's a general consensus that corporation tax is going to go up at some point, but probably not now. They're going to be holding that one back. You may remember that there was a proposed 2% stamp duty levy on overseas buyers of residential property. So I think there are going to be some more details around that. Also, speculation, you may have heard there was something in the Times today about the stamp duty holiday being extended from the end of March to the end of June. So more details obviously likely to be forthcoming in the budget. Don't know whether there's going to be any tapering there, or grandfathering as they call it, or whether it's actually going to be another cliff edge, in which case I suspect things will be marginally better, but we're still going to end up with a bit of a sudden impact when that goes. Interestingly, not that long ago, just earlier this month, Robert Jenrick, the Communities Minister, he announced that there was going to be a new tax on UK residential property development. So we might get a bit more information around that. They reckon there could be some enhanced capital allowances for sustainable development, lots of stuff around maybe planning for high-rise buildings, some of the stuff around cladding, which obviously been in the news. I think the general consensus is they called it a budget without a bang. So I think the focus is on recovery, and the bad news, such as paying for the last 12 months, is going to be somewhat deferred until things are looking a little bit more of we're a little bit further down the line. But sure as eggs is eggs, that is undoubtedly going to come at some point, but probably not next week. So that was the crystal ball on the budget, and then linked to the whole issue about the stamp duty holiday. There's just some interesting numbers again in Property Week about the actual scale of that. So in January, there were nearly 122,000 residential sales. So transactions were up 24% versus the same time last year, but non-residential sales dropped 8.2%. So probably no surprising there, given the the news that Richie's just shared. And non-residential sales for the financial year 2020-21 are the lowest they've been for a decade. The estate agents have been saying what they'd like. They'd like the stamp duty holiday to continue forever. Not quite sure that's going to happen, but fair enough. They also think that, yeah, could we have some more support for the Help to Buy schemes? And actually, they're not particularly enamored with the proposed 2% stamp duty levy for overseas investors. They think that that's going to dent foreign investor confidence, and that could hurt sales. But there you go, a few bits from the news. The residential transactions have been buoyant at the start of this year, but yeah, we have that cliff edge in the offing when the stamp duty holiday ends. There you go.
Okay, good stuff.
That's all I had.
Good stuff. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a talk this evening, aren't we? We're going to just chat to you about a couple of things. What did we say that we would chat to people about, Ian, so we get this right?
You were going to tell everybody about your 5-step plan, and I couldn't remember whether it was related to your current health kick or it was to do with recruiting a property development team of professionals. So you can pick.
Let's talk about putting a 5-step plan together for getting a property team together. So grab a pen and paper just to make a bit of a shopping list for the weekend. But no, you might want to write down a few little tips here. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly because we want to get on to some questions. I can see some questions have already come in. If you've got any more questions or questions on this content, please pop them in the chat box and we will pick them up. So a 5-step plan for putting together your ideal property development team. So let's first of all give it a bit of context, okay? There's a number one rule here. Property developers don't build houses, okay? We don't actually build houses as developers. The team do. That's what they do. The team puts the houses together. So just bear that in mind. Let's get the context. And it is probably, and I've been around lots and lots of different businesses and lots of industries in my time as a non-exec and turnaround consultant and all sorts of things. It is one of the most highly leveraged businesses models that there is, and certainly from all that I've seen, I think it is one of the favorite. Now, why do these people want to work for you? Why does this team want to work for you? Well, they only get paid by developers. That's what they do. You know, developers, people like us, people like you, either in the business or transitioning to the business, are going to pay their bills. And professionals don't only want to work with experienced developers. And guess why they don't only want to work with experienced developers? It's because they die. You know, experienced developers eventually die. We can't hide the fact eventually we will all be going down that route. Whatever your religious beliefs are, certainly in this world, we will all die and we can't commission any more projects. So they're always going to want new individuals, new developers coming along. Of course, professionals get a fee and they get paid for doing what they do. So they definitely want to find new developers. So what is this sort of 5-step plan? Well, the first one, number one, write this down, is first you need a brand. First of all, you need a brand. Not a company. A lot of people go, oh, I've got a company set up. So I've got a company's house, get that set up. No, we're talking about a brand. You need to create a shop window, a name, a logo, a website, something like that, that people can see you as. Because every time you go to a meeting, what happens? You go to a meeting, you bump into someone, they give you a business card. What's the first thing you do when you go home if you're interested? You Google them, you look them up, see if they've got a website. If the website's pretty poor, that's your opinion of them. If the website's, okay, that's interesting. Because it's got to be congruent, it's got to match what they've said to you. But you need a brand, you need something. I mean, if you don't even have a business card, how's that going to go? What do you think when someone doesn't even give you a business card? Or it's just got their name on it? There's no logo, there's nothing about it. It's not even, you know. So you need a brand. Number one, first of all, you need a brand if you want to build a team. The second thing is you need a niche. Now, here at propertyCEO, when we train people to be developers. We don't train a strategy of build to rent or commercial conversion or you know, land assembly. No, we'll train you to be developers so you can do everything. But when you're talking to people, there's no point going out there saying, so what do you do? Oh, we do anything that makes a profit. No, you can't do that. No one's going to want to engage with you on that. So you need to niche down. Whether you change that niche for what environment you're in, that doesn't matter. But most of you probably sort of think, you know, I wouldn't mind working in this area. And that niche could be geographical, okay? It could actually be, yeah, I'm really interested in looking at office or retail. There's a lot of stuff going up in the retail. Those guys at propertyCEO keep banging on about that. So maybe I'd like to do retail. But, you know, how big? What is it you're looking for? So you can't say, I was looking at retail. What, the Debenhams? Oh, no, not the Debenhams. I'm looking at the old chicken and chip shops down the road. Okay, well then say, what is it you're looking for? Niche down and say, yeah, what I'm interested in, we're sort of working on these sort of areas. So when you're talking about building a team of people, okay, getting that team together, they want to know where you're at, because does that team fit you? If they actually want to work on Debenhams stores and convert them into things, and all you're looking at is the chicken nugget shop down the road, they're not interested. Or in fact, actually, if they're only capable of really converting a chicken nugget shop, and that's where they're at, they're doing a sort of small scale, professional service. They're thinking, oh, well, he's looking at developments on Debenhams. I'm not interested in that. So you've got to niche down. You've got to tell people what it is you are looking to do. Number 3, I told you we're going to go through these reasonably quickly, so I hope you're writing these down. Number 3 is you need to have a story. You need to have a story. Look at that. It comes up on my screen. It says, Microsoft, something went wrong. That's probably just me generally. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. Something went wrong. That's what it said on my screen behind me. So number 3, you need to have a story. What's the story? What is it? What do you mean? What's the story? Is it the 3 bears? What am I going to tell them? No. How have you got to where you are? And why are you doing it? You're an entrepreneur putting an experienced team together. Don't pretend to be an experienced developer. Oh, I've done lots of developments. What have you done? Well, yeah, lots. You can't tell people, so you do not blag, okay? But you've got to say why you're here. Yeah, I'm a buy-to-let landlord. Where the government is constantly beating us up there as landlords, I've decided to move in development. They seem to be supporting development as a government. They're putting all these PD rights in place. It's a natural transition. I've been in property for several years. In my career, I've always been a manager. I'm transitioning those and using those management skills with my buy-to-let property experience and naturally transitioning into property. What a great story. Why are you doing what you're doing? Now your elevator pitch. Be passionate and excited about it. Don't read it out. Yes, I'm a buy-to-let landlord and I am transitioning into property development. And it's a passion of mine that I've always had. Thank you. You've got to be excited and you've got to feel something about it and you've got to get that across to people. No, it's really great. There's some fantastic opportunities to regenerate High Street. Whatever way you want, but you need to have a story. Number 4, pens ready for number 4. Get recommendations for professionals. Don't just go and Google them, okay? Network proactively. Don't say, oh, we're in lockdown. I'll wait till we get out of lockdown. No, you can network in lockdown. It's entirely possible. Look at the technology we have. We've beamed into your houses this evening. It's fantastic, isn't it? So network proactively, get out there. Go out of your way to meet people and tell them your story. Number 3, tell them your story. Ask people who they'd recommend. Got a good architect, who do you know? We don't do enough of that. You go out and you just chat to people. The normal sort of networking thing. So, you're right, good evening. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah, you busy? Yeah, you busy? Yeah. Then what? Most of us fall down on that. Ask people. Say, oh, you into development? Yeah, I'm doing a bit. Oh, you haven't got any good architects you can recommend. Now, be careful. Not everyone wants to recommend their professionals because they think, hang on, you're going to use my professionals. If you meet another professional, they definitely recommend professionals. If you meet an architect, say, do you know a good structural engineer? Yeah, they're going to recommend you. And invest in those personal relationships. Don't be one of these, oh, that's great, thanks very much, I'm off, running around the room like crazy. Equally, don't just stick with one person. But people do business with people. So you need to be personable. And you want to find professionals who will give you free advice. What's he talking about now? Good free advice. I don't mean completely free, because free advice is only worth the paper it's written on. It's free, it's nothing. But someone that will give you a bit of time to start with. If they don't give you any time, not interested, they probably don't think much of you, but someone who thinks you're going to go somewhere because they like your story, the fact that you've niched, okay? They like what you're saying. Then they're probably going to give you a bit of free time. But treat them fairly. Don't keep asking for free stuff. Be prepared to pay. So get recommendations for other people. And the 5th one, and then we can take some questions, is get a non-executive advisor. What's a non-executive advisor, you might be saying? So, well, I'm going to tell you what it is. A non-executive advisor is not a non-executive director. So they're not actually part of your company. They're someone who is going to advise you, someone who's been in the industry a long, long time. We here at propertyCEO and some of our students who are on this evening will know what we say. And we say grey hair or no hair, okay? So I could possibly just about squeeze into that category. But grey hair or no hair, that's been in the industry a long, long time, that can help support and guide you and be a bit of a safety net. There's a way that you get these people on board. There's a way that you negotiate and bring them to the table and, repay them in some format. But it is really important to get this credibility, to have a non-executive advisor around you. Interesting, I find it absolutely bizarre. And not that we know what everyone else does out there, but as a training business, we get a lot of students come to us, and other students who've been elsewhere and looked at other training companies, which I'm sure are all very good, and they're all going, I've never heard of this concept of a non-exec advisor. Well, it's not just something we've dreamt up. It's not a completely magical thing with smoke and mirrors. All the best companies will have advisors in some description. It is absolutely key. And I've been kicking around this industry for 40 years. I can tell you, I've trained a lot of developers, new developers, industry professionals, and even encouraged and helped existing developers get better. Bringing in a quality non-exec advisor alongside you can make a world of difference. That's why a lot of the top companies in this country will have non-executive advisors and non-executive board members. So there we go, 5 key points. So if we refresh our memory, first of all, you need a brand. Second, you need a niche. Third, you need to have a story. Fourth, get recommendations from professionals. And fifth, get a non-executive advisor. Even if you don't know what it means, write it down and say, I need to get one of those. That is a bit of a fly through of a 5-step plan for putting together your ideal property development team. Now we are very happy to take any questions. Go.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I think we're all slightly worried about the potential closure of the chicken nugget shops. That's going to be next week's news. We do have a question. We've got quite a few questions come in whilst you've been doing that. So there's one here which I've just lost. I know it is from Ali, who asks, evening Ian and Richie, I am new to the show and must say it's great. We don't have to say it's great, Ali, but it's very kind of you. I know I should probably know this. Can you tell me what an elevator pitch is? Yeah, absolutely, Ali. An elevator pitch is basically your what you effectively tell people when you've got a short amount of time to describe the business, what it is that you do. I think in terms of property development, it's quite a flexible thing. It's not a script. It's where you're able and quite practiced at being able to talk about your business, what you do, and you kind of tailor that script to every situation. It may be that you've just got literally a few seconds when you're introduced to somebody, maybe that you're talking to a professional or an estate agent or an investor, in which case you've got more time. But being able to talk about with enthusiasm and with knowledge about what it is you're trying to do in your business, what your property development business does, that is effectively your elevator pitch, and it's absolutely critical in basically underpinning your brand. Because if you get that bit wrong and you're umming and ahhing all over the place, then it doesn't look very good, and that first impression tends to be slightly devalued. So there you go. That's what an elevator pitch is.
So Ali, you will be back now every Thursday evening for the remaining part of the year, apart from we're not on. If we're not on, don't bother turning up. You can know where you're on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock for 45 minutes. Okay. Where's this one I just saw here? There we go. Kirsty says, evening, Kirsty. Kirsty says, she didn't say evening, Kirsty. That was me just saying good evening, Kirsty. She says, when do you think you need to start building your team? After you secure your first project or before? Before, Kirsty, absolutely before, because to secure a project, you need the assistance of a team. Okay, I don't know, Kirsty, so with all due respect, I doubt you've got enough knowledge yourself. Otherwise, if you did, you probably wouldn't be recruiting a team to actually go out and completely secure a project, because there's a whole load of stuff that needs to be done. You need to understand what it is you're going to be doing. Am I going to be converting it? Have I got planning permission or permitted development rights? How much is it going to cost to convert? How am I going to sell it? How long is it going to take? How much am I going to sell it for? Etc., 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 etc. So, Kirsty, you'll need this team to support you to help secure the project. There's always a balance of how much you spend out before you secured the project. But actually, there is a process of how you build a team, how you build relationships and get professionals on board, so they will give you some free advice up front to help you get your first project secured. Okay, so it's definitely before, Kirsty. It's not afterwards. Now, there's that phrase, something about door and horse and bolt. I'm not sure how it all comes together, but that's what I'd be thinking, Kirsty. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, not the first metaphor that's gone south this evening. We've got one here from Jerry, who asked, do you think it's credible enough to have your backstory as a buy-to-let owner when getting into development? And the answer, yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big challenges that every developer has when they're starting out is they're not able to show this kind of portfolio of work that they've done. great news that we've got a team around us that has done lots of development, but this is the first time that team's been brought together by you as a developer. And what people, Richie mentioned early on, that people do like a story, and they like to be able to see that transition from, if you're involved in property already, and then you're sort of transitioning into, almost opening up another arm of your business. If you're a landlord already, and then you're doing some development. That seems like a very logical approach for a successful business in terms of the direction of travel. That's how you're growing your business. And we know that when it comes to people like commercial lenders, they recognise that first-time developers don't have a track record of developments to fall back on, but they do look for things like that because they can see the relevance. They're looking for that credibility within the kind of backstory for people. So absolutely, I would say if you've done buy-to-lets before, perfect thing to put on the CV and to integrate into your elevator pitch. Is kind of a natural progression to move into development. There you go. Over to you, Richie.
Good stuff, Jerry. Hopefully that was useful. Chris says, would you recommend sites like Checkatrade or MyBuilder for finding a renovation team? No. And the reason that we're not, Chris, is because if you're looking for a renovation team, and with all due respect, Chris, I don't know what you're looking at, but if you're looking to do a buy-to-let, update it, refurbish it, or an HMO, or flip on a quick, little house refurb, crack on. We're talking about developments, okay? And when you're talking about developments, we are not looking for people that exist on Checkatrade or MyBuilder, generally. Those are generally tradespeople in your area. Those would be electricians and plasterers and bricklayers and all those sorts of things, decorators. We don't want any of those, okay? You're probably saying, well, of course we do. Surely we need those people. You do, but the contractor's going to find them. I was just talking on a session this afternoon, and a few people here, as indeed Sarah was. I said Sarah was on this session earlier this evening, and I was talking this afternoon. Sarah's an interior designer, by the way, which is always interesting, isn't it? But anyway, what I was saying on that, and Sarah will remember this, is I was talking about a main contractor. You need a main contractor that would then underneath them, Chris, they'll have their subcontractors, okay, to deliver, which will be the electricians, the plasterers, and so on and so on. Okay, so they will find them, and they certainly won't be going to Checkatrade. They'll be going to established relationships that they've got in a robust supply chain of subcontractors to them. So if you're doing development, you do not want to be down at the coalface, Chris. You don't want to be dealing with those individual trades. So yeah, Checkatrade MyBuilder, I'm sure absolutely fantastic for a buy-to-let refurb, not for a development. Hopefully that clarifies it and answers that question. Over to you, Ian. What's next?
We've had a few things about branding. One here from John. What's the best way to get a logo put together for your business? My preference there is to outsource it. One of the funny thing happens when it comes to branding on a business is that we've all got this kind of creative sort of side to us, and we all secretly quite fancy having a bash at maybe designing the logo, doing the colors, maybe even doing the website. Problem is that generally we're not necessarily very good at it, and also it's a complete waste of time. We've come across people that have spent weeks designing a logo, getting it just right. Absolutely pointless. Nobody really cares what your logo looks like apart from you. So I would outsource it. There's loads of people you can outsource it to these days. Cheap and cheerful. If you go to fiverr.com, you can always get people to do logos on fiverr.com. If you want something at the other end of the scale, there's a website called 99designs.com, which is more expensive, but you'll get a better product. But yeah, logo design, there's lots of people out there doing it. And as long as it looks professional, that's probably the overarching thing about everything to do with brand, is that you just want to look professional. We're not trying to reinvent, the new Apple logo or whatever. It really is just making sure that it sort of passes muster when people see it. It doesn't actually have to be sort of spectacular from a design perspective, but so I would outsource it, and you can get it done really, really quickly that way and really inexpensively as well. So there you go. Hope that helps, John.
Okay, I've got a question here from Paul, which I was going to answer. Then I saw Paul. I saw you went offline. Now you've just come back on, so I assume you had an internet problem, but you're back with us. Paul's question, hang on, another question's come in. So they're going up and down here. Guys, loads of questions coming in. I know we're never going to get through them all, but we're going to do our best. I'm going to put Paul's question together with Sumi's question. Sumi says, where do you get a non-exec advisor from? Well, not Amazon. Okay, don't get it from Amazon. And Paul's question, let's do the two together, says, my potential non-exec advisor on a 10-house development asks, what's in it for me? Okay, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So first of all, where'd you get them? Well, again, it's getting out there and networking, okay? These are generally, as we said, grey hair, no hair people that's been in the industry. They could be a retired architect. They could be a semi-retired developer. People that are willing to give back and help, okay? They're out there. They're out there networking in not necessarily property networking groups. If that's where you hang out, there's going to be other business networking groups they're going to be in. So they're out about there. You just need to go out and find them. And of course, you need to know exactly what you're looking for, because something could be staring you right in the face. And if you don't know what it is, how are you going to know it's there in front of you? And in terms of what's in it for them, of course, they're going to ask, well, what's in it for me? Well, that's the deal you do with them. And there is a way that you structure a deal with a non-exec advisor as a developer. And it is certainly not, okay, so you can write down what it's not paying them on a monthly basis. Okay, you're going to do a deal with them in some form of profit share. Now, there's a way you structure that and put that together, which has to be done right. But they are going to get a relatively substantial amount of money out of it. There's going to be a deal. But the secret is they don't actually need the money, and they probably don't want it. But it needs to be the right level to hit the spot where they're happy to do it. Now, you might think, what is he talking about now? But it is key. It is key to know how to do that. So they're definitely out there. And of course, you have to make something in it for them. But I can tell you, most really good non-execs do not need the money. Okay, they don't need the money, and they're not particularly after the money. But of course, it is an essential part of the ingredient. Here, what have you got next? And I'll have a look for a couple of others.
I've got one here from Joseph, who asks, how big an area do you think is a good idea to cover for new developers? Okay, so I think the first thing you've got to do, Joseph, is to identify what it is you're looking for. And if you're looking, for example, for shops to convert, then you're probably going to find that in quite a contained area locally to where you are. If you've got a bit more of a niche strategy and you're looking at some particular type of permitted development, right, that might be more further afield. Other things that people do, maybe they live in one place, but then they've moved and they've got a lot of knowledge of a different place. So again, you might have an area that immediately close by to you, or it could be further afield. No harm in doing that. It's just a logistical issue, and also there's a dependency there a little bit on where your team is based, particularly the contractor. I would say that for most students, it's a case of normally being within about an hour's drive or so of home. And what I would also suggest is it's quite useful to have a kind of a broader strategy that is in that sort of area, about an hour's drive, but then maybe have a very specific strategy that's more local, where you've kind of got an area that inside out. Maybe it's your local town, your local village, or some specific area where you think there is quite a lot of opportunity, and then you can be a kind of an expert in that area, and then just a broader expert sort of further afield. You've got to bear in mind, of course, that where you're going to be getting opportunities from is, you're going to be tapping into, estate agents and so on. And the broader area that you cover, the harder work it is, the more legwork you've got to do to be able to build up those contacts and get those opportunities. But yeah, I hope that helps. Richie, what we got?
Okay, well, I've got two from Chris. Chris, I'm going to combine these two because I think it's quite interesting questions. Chris says, first question is, many lenders ask for experience, i.e. a CV of previous projects before contractors are appointed. Thus, this could be a stumbling block early on. Could be, but it doesn't have to be. And his second part of his question is, I'm going to answer both of these a bit more thoroughly. I have experience in project management for corporate companies. Excellent, good stuff. And have made the transition. Do you think it's a big ask to manage all the subbies and the professionals and procure, etc., etc.? This makes viability a lot higher because main contractor is not taking his profit off the top. Okay, well, to put those two things together, I can see why. And to be fair, Chris, we've actually trained quite a few project managers who all come in and want to project manage their own projects, which we absolutely tell them no. Okay, that is not the way to do it. If you haven't got 20% profit, and it's a magic number, on gross development value out of your development, okay, which includes all the professional fees, then you're cutting it too fine. Okay, you're cutting it too fine. So I mean, I could make a lot of money out of development, and I'm going to go and paint it all myself, and I've laid the bricks. I make much more profit. It's how far do you take that role? Now you might say, well, I'm a project manager, so that I can do that. But But you know, do you want to do that? So let's say you can, Chris, and let's say you're perfectly capable of doing it. And you know, as you say, is it too much? Well, let's just say it's not. Why do you want to do that? You are actually just trading your time for money. That's not what it's about. Leverage is a wonderful word, and it's the ninth wonder of the world. That's what you need to do. We talk here about property CEO, about being the CEO and leveraging that. Chris, if you knew how to go and secure developments that made you 20% profits, and let's say you were doing a, I don't know, a $750,000 GDV, there's £150,000. Now, typically on that project, there might be 15 grand in for a project manager. So what's the answer to this, Chris? To the question I'm going to throw back at you. What would you rather spend your time doing? Earning £15,000 out of running around like a blue-ass fly managing all these people, or using your CEO skills, which you could develop, Chris? You could develop them, I'm sure. Okay, particularly if you're in the industry, and go and find another project and make another 150,000. I think you probably know the answer to that. And in terms of this stumbling block, okay, to answer that question, the stumbling block, yeah, that's an obvious stumbling block that most people fall over at if they don't know. And they go in and they try to blag and they try to pretend they've done stuff, and of course that falls apart. And of course, if they go in and say, "Oh, I haven't done anything," they're not going to get any money. No one's going to lend them. But there is a way that you position yourself, you put yourself together. So your CV is giving the apps, and I'm not talking about blagging or smoke and mirrors. It's just the way that people that know how in this industry will present themselves to a developer funder and get the money. Okay, it's all about building that team around you and presenting it in the right way. It's about what I've talked about this evening, Chris. So hopefully that is of interest. What I will do, Chris, and if it's of interest for you and others, I'll give out at the end. We do some free 3-hour sessions if anyone's interested, and that is one of the things we talk about, building credibility on there. So you might be interested to come along to that. So there we go. There's 2 questions in one from Chris. What's next, Ian?
Well, I think I'll combine 2 questions, or at least there's been a number of people that were picking you up on that point about buy-to-lets, and Charlotte's one here, is it not better to start with buy-to-lets and then work your way up, gaining more experience as you go? And I think that's quite a common myth, really. People look at property development and they think, yeah, it sounds quite you need some experience. It sounds like quite big scale, could be lots of risk. Building housing estates and shopping centres and the like, because development is such a broad category. And so a lot of people go down the landlord route and do the buy-to-lets because it's almost like a default option. That's what lots of other people have done, and you don't need any experience to do it. That's actually, it's not some sort of hierarchy where you work your way up to property development that sits at the top. You've simply got a choice. You can either go into property development straight off the bat, or you can go become a landlord, and you can certainly do both. And in fact, doing both is a really good strategy. One of the things that all landlords eventually do is run out of deposits. You just run out of the funds to be able to keep building a portfolio. And so if you're combining it with development, it can be a great way of actually making the both things kind of one feeds the other. You're getting profits from your development, sort of small scale developments coming in fairly regularly, and that then can boost your portfolio quite significantly. So yeah, it isn't some sort of advanced strategy that you have to kind of earn your stripes on. You simply make a decision as to where the development is a good fit. And I would say, yeah, for most people, we've certainly, we're talking to students. There's a lot of students that are landlords who, are sort of feeling the pinch when it comes to feeling a little unloved on the landlord side, particularly over the last few years. And so, yeah, development is kind of an area where, as Richie mentioned earlier, the government is actually being quite nice to developers at the moment and trying to encourage people to actually do it. It's not always the case when it comes to landlords. So there you go, Charlotte. You can do property development at any time. Richie. Okay.
Steve's question. Evening, Steve. Hope you are well, my friend. He says, evening, gents. It's always nice when people are polite. He says, do you think it would be okay to have the father of one of my builders to use that I'm using for tender for contracts as your non-exec advisor, or would this be too close a relationship to offer him the position? I think when you say using the builder, I mean, obviously, Steve, when you're going to do development, you're going to go out to a number of contractors to tender. So the father, his son, his building company, presumably could be one of those people. That's what I'm guessing you're talking about on the list. So in that respect, that's probably not a main issue. Now, I think it's about that relationship and how you get on with them. It is quite close. So if the son's building company gets appointed and there's a bit of a problem and you're in a position contractually where you've got to, give them a kick or sort them out contractually, they're not going to get paid that. You might fall out with your non-exec advisor. I mean, the non-exec advisor's got no contractual control or what over it. But would if you were actually penalising his son's business, would families stick together and he'd actually give you not quite the right advice? I would say if you could do something different, that would be better. It just depends, Steve, how well you feel you get on with him. If you feel that actually there's a really good relationship there, I don't know how long this relationship has been there, and you think, yeah, I trust them, the values seem to be strong and it's solid, then maybe, but just be slightly cautious, because if there are situations where you can get in, and if the contractor's not doing what he's supposed to do, and you've got to throw the contractor off and he's not going to get paid, and that's a problem, what does the father say? So just when you need your non-exec advisor, and you need your non-exec advisor when the proverbial hits the fan, that's the real good time when you need to lean on someone with grey hair or no hair, then are they going to give you absolutely solid advice? So be careful. I would say, yeah, be slightly nervous on that one. I'm going to go straight into Mark's question, another one, because I'm jumping in and I feel like I'm on a roll. So Mark's question is, sorry, normally we do one each, but I'm going to do two in a row now because I just don't care. And Mark's question, because it's underneath Steve, so it's just a natural flow. He says, as a new startup with no industry-specific experience, how would you go about sourcing a main contractor? Funny enough, Mark, I had just actually done a presentation this afternoon on another webinar, exactly that, how you source a contractor. Very quickly, Mark, because I'm not going to better condense my 35-minute presentation into a few seconds. But in simple terms, okay, a great project manager is going to help you do this. You've got to go out and you've got to actually do things like pre-qualification questionnaires. You've got to go out and ask them what they do. You've got to see whether they're compatible, what they do compared to what you want to do. You've got to check their finances. You've got to check their turnover. You've got to check their history, their credit history. You've got to go actually and see some of their sites. You've got to talk to some of their previous clients, etc., etc., etc. There's quite a bit involved in actually checking and pre-qualifying your contractors, much more than what I can answer in a few seconds. But yes, you absolutely need to know how to do that. Also, there's another stage. How do you tender with a contractor, and how do you control a contractor on site? Equally as important. So Mark, I can't answer it in simple terms, but I've given you some quick fire stuff. And obviously you might have missed all that, but by the way, this is all recorded. I see a few people have joined a bit later. Everything's on YouTube. This recording will be up on YouTube over the weekend. So go back, slow it down, write those things down, Mark. Hopefully that helps as a quick fire. Ian, let's see if we can squeeze, let's squeeze one more in.
Patricia asked, can you expand on profit sharing with non-exec advisor? So yes, Patricia, this is what we're suggesting here is that this isn't something like a fee. So your architect and someone gets a fee for the work that they do. For your non-exec advisor, what you really want is their interest in helping you and being part of your team in that respect, for them to have exactly the same kind of skin in the game as you do. So you only get paid when there's a successful product at the end and all the units are sold. And so you want them to be in the same situation. As soon as you start paying somebody kind of like a retainer or a monthly fee or an hourly rate, then they make money even when there's no money for you at that point. And so the way in which it's kind of that structure doesn't work so well. What you want is for your non-exec advisor to be very much aligned, have their objectives aligned with yours. So when you do need their help, you're both on the same page, because you're both effectively getting a profit share from the program, the project at the end. So there you go.
Right, I'm going to very quickly then, because I think Michelle's put two questions in, and I'm going to answer Michelle's two questions. The first question is looking at a tired bungalow with large gardens in high value areas a good strategy, etc., etc., etc. Yes, Michelle, it is a good strategy. Michelle's actually one of our students. I'm not going to answer all that in detail now. Michelle, bring that question to Students Live Q&A next week, and we'll answer that in more detail. But a second question, which is relevant to tonight, so I will answer that one in a bit more. She says, in reaching out to potential team members, did the day one QS professional who said who might work as a project manager suggested not using a contractor and using individual trades. That's a construction management type of project, okay, or management contracting. I was surprised, as I know your views on this. Is there a case for this? There is. And Michelle, we talk about that. And I don't know where you are in the program. Sorry, apologies, everyone. We're just talking to one of our students just for the minute, but bear with us. So I don't know where you are on the program, Michelle, but we obviously talk about procurement strategies and procurement routes. Management contracting, or construction management, running individual trade packages is one of the routes we discuss. I suggest you don't do that for your first project, okay? The project manager might be suggesting it because there's a nice healthy fee in that for them so they can do the work. I'm not saying they're inappropriate in suggesting that, because what it can do, it can end in a potentially a cheaper product. The only problem is, okay, or a couple of problems. One is you are carrying all the risk because the individual trade packages are putting all the risk back to you as the main contractor carries the risk otherwise. And then when you're trying to fund it, funders don't like individual trade packages because you don't have certainty on the project until all the trade packages are absolutely put together. There we go. There's a very quick answer on that, Michelle, and hopefully that was reasonably clear in the very short space of time I had to answer it. But hopefully it also gave everyone else a quick overview of some of the things in terms of contracting. That was quite quick. I think we're done. I mean, otherwise we're going to be going on. We could stay here probably to 10 o'clock answering all these questions that are coming in. I do apologise. It's just the way it is, isn't it? And we can't do much about it. Can't do much about it. Well, Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News says, like another excellent Richie and Ian show from Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News. I thought I'd better give him a mention. Okay, got your pen and paper, guys. I did mention, and I think it was Chris I was talking about earlier, if anyone wants actually to come on a free half-day session with us, okay, it's for 3 hours. You have to put up with us for 3 hours. It's me and Ian for 3 hours. I mean, I can't think of anything worse, but if you want to, just write this down, propertyceo.co.uk/roadmap, propertyceo.co.uk/roadmap. Go on there, it's completely free. You can come and spend 3 hours with us. We do an evening one and a Saturday one, and we can tell you all about development. It's about looking at, is development for me? So if it's interesting for you just to dip your toe in the water, please do come and join us. That's it for the show. We're back again, what, next week, Ian? Should we do it all again?
I think we shall. Next Thursday at 7 p.m. Same place, same time.
Good stuff. Please put in the chat box if you like the show. We always like to see the comments at the end. We do this show for you. We don't really do it for us. I mean, to be honest, we wouldn't even bother if you didn't turn up because it'd be a waste of time staring at a blank camera when no one's on the other side. So did you enjoy it? Doral says, thanks, guys. Another great session. Doral, good to see you. It'd be nice to catch up one day. Mark says, brilliant session, gents. Very informative and appreciate the ongoing upbeat advice. That's what it's about, upbeat advice. Harvey says, awesome. Love it. I love that. Yeah, great stuff. Paul says, cheers, chaps. Yeah, all you were moaning about, Paul, was getting another guest. Don't worry, we'll have other guests just for you, Paul. Brilliant as ever, says Keith. Yoko says, thanks very much. Both, as usual, enjoyed it with a smiley face. I think that's a smiley face. Or not. Oh, no, that's a thumbs up. I can't even see what it is. My eyes aren't good enough. So there we go. Great show as always, says Dan Nelson. And Sumi says, thanks, guys. Wonderful. Well, you've all been wonderful as well. You've been wonderful for just turning up and giving a couple of old chaps a bit of sunshine in their hearts. Goodbye. See you next week.
Bye.